Welcome to Louisiana Wrestling Now. This is Coach Robbie Dauterive, and I am joined today by filling in for Ben De Palma, Ke-Shawn Hayes, who's a three-time Missouri State champion, amongst many other things, and a former Ohio State two-time NCAA qualifier. Ke-Shawn, thanks for filling in for Ben.
Yeah, no problem. Glad to be here.
The great thing now is we have so many rules in high school sports, and there was a heat warning today in Baton Rouge. The football team's not allowed to practice during a heat warning. They had to move practice back to 6 o'clock. And as the athletic director of the most powerful teams in Louisiana, Ben had to take the evening off. But, man, Ke-Shawn, I really appreciate you filling in. And, man, a lot to talk to you about coming up with Fargo. And we're also joined by former Brother Martin, four-time state champion, Paul Klein.
What's up?
Paul, welcome. Paul wants to let everybody out there know he just left the gym.
That's just worked out,
He is working out, staying in shape. How old are you now, Paul?
I turned 28 in December.
All right, so how's the body feeling? Well, long time wrestling, a couple of knee injuries. How are you doing, man?
Man, I'm feeling good. I'm in my prime right now.
In your prime, I'm 58. I feel like I'm in my prime. All right, guys. So, look, man, I'm so excited to have you two guys on and just talk some wrestling. Ke-Shawn, I got to interview you at the Zahid Valencia camp at Brother Martin this past Saturday. We posted that as a little teaser for the week. But, man, I couldn't tell you enough. I watched just about every match at Fargo, and you guys did a great job. You and Kevon Powell and our other coaches on the staff, man, they did such a great job because I can't remember the last time a Louisiana team was in Fargo and we posted this many wins. And while we might have walked out with 0 All-Americans, man, I think we made great strides moving forward. Ke-Shawn, your thoughts on the Fargo team and some of the things they accomplished?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. A lot of people were coming up to us at the tournament telling us how good the kids looked. It's something that we've been working on a lot. I'm not sure if some people remember, but last year during the preseason, we did traveling with Team Louisiana practices between Lafayette, New Orleans, and Baton Rouge. And then we did it a little bit after the state tournament as well in the spring. So that kind of dedication from our national team coaching staff is really starting to pay off, and it's starting to show. So we're really excited about the direction that we're heading in.
Yeah, so look, among your many accolades, you're a 3-time Fargo All-American. We had a couple of guys lose in the blood round this year, either in the quarters, the blood round, or that match right before. Talk about the pressure as a wrestler that you feel rolling in those rounds, knowing that stop sign's right there, and you just have to go get it.
Yeah, well, I don't have exactly that type of experience. I only wrestled in a Fargo bracket one time. Back when I was in Fargo, my two other times was the vertical pairing. So I did have one match, though, that was kind of ridiculous with vertical pairing. But I had a match where the winner would go to wrestle for third and the loser was out. So that was definitely a lot of pressure, and it was on the stage. So it was a big match, and unfortunately, me and the guy that I had to wrestle against both lost to Stefan Micic, who's now a world champion and Olympian for Serbia. So we both lost to him in close matches, so we had to wrestle each other to either go for third or go home empty-handed. But there's definitely a lot of pressure. I mean, everyone kind of knows if you place at Fargo, you're set up well for college recruiting and everything. So there's a lot that goes into it.
And you just threw a name out there. That's name number one as one of those Fargo names where you say, wait, this guy's favorite to win the Olympics. He was in my weight class. Paul, you had kind of a similar deal at Fargo. You went 5-2 as a sophomore, got beat in the blood round. Talk about the guy that you lost to at Fargo who became a household name.
I lost to Aaron Pico. I think it was in the round before the quarters. And I just remember after I lost to him, the coach at the time was like, yeah, I think you might have wrestled the best kid in the tournament. And so I know he's doing big things in Bellator right now.
Yeah, for sure. Did I call you and yell at you for losing to him?
I don't think so.
That's surprising.
No. Yeah, he clubbed me off the whistle, and I remember being like, wow, okay.
So what's it like, Paul? You get to that blood round match, and you come up short. You walking off the mat. What's going through your mind?
Definitely disappointed. You're all the way out there in North Dakota. You probably just spent way too long in North Dakota in the hot dorms. You had a couple tornado warnings. But no, you're upset. But, especially if you lose in the championship bracket, you got to bounce back and make it back in the consolations. But it's definitely tough. Good experience, though. You come back for the folk style season. No question better. Win, lose, or draw. You wrestled the best guys in the country. So you just know the level that you need to get to.
Awesome. So look, Ke-Shawn, you're a guy who qualified for 2 NCAA tournaments. So I don't know if you can appreciate like a guy who qualified for 0 NCAA tournaments and didn't wrestle in college, but walking into the NCAAs and just watching the guys warm up that morning, 8 a.m., wrestling starts for 9, you like, look at this. It's the greatest college wrestlers, the greatest folk style wrestlers in the world. Is that kind of what Fargo feels like now? They're just alpha males everywhere, and you can almost cut it with a knife, the intensity?
Yeah, it's definitely kind of like that at the high school level for sure. Like you have that anxiety of like, oh, Team Minnesota's over there, Team PA is warming up on this mat, because every team has their designated mats, and every day that you go into the tournament, the numbers get smaller, and you just know that everyone that's left is all the best guys in the tournament. So it's definitely kind of that feeling of like looking around, like, man, who am I going to see walk around the corner? Like Jax Forrest just walked by, or Pearson Manville just walked by, or whoever it might be from whatever state. So
yeah, that's awesome. So Ke-Shawn, a little sales pitch right now, because you guys not only went to Fargo individual national championships, but you went to schoolboy, cadet, and junior national championships with teams from Louisiana that were probably lacking some of the better kids, and we probably had to forfeit a bit too many weight classes. What can kids get? What can the high school wrestler in Louisiana gain from going to one of those tournaments next year, or making the trip to Fargo and feeling that intensity?
well, I'll die on this hill that I think every single wrestler, if you want to be competitive, should wrestle freestyle and Greco. You don't have to wrestle freestyle and Greco at Fargo every single year, or maybe you just want to do freestyle. But if you want to be a good wrestler and you want to wrestle in college, you should be wrestling freestyle and Greco. It will shore up any holes in your game. You'll get exposed in things that you didn't realize that you needed to work on. That was one of the really quick things with a lot of kids that I work with. They start wrestling Greco and they're like, Coach, how come I keep getting underhooked and thrown? Well, because you can't keep your elbows in. What happens to you in folk style matches when somebody underhooks you? You get scored on every single time. So you start to learn where those weaknesses are, and it just really exposes that. So I think that that's the main thing that kids can get out of it, is that it's going to make you a better folk style wrestler. Another big thing that kids realize that they need to work on when they wrestle freestyle is how to finish a shot correctly. That's a big deterrent for kids, is they say, well, I don't want to wrestle freestyle because every time I shoot, I get rolled. Well, that's because your shot's not good. That's the thing, is that you're learning that you need to take better shots. If you take better shots, you're not getting rolled. So it's one of the quickest ways to get well-rounded as a wrestler.
Yeah, one of our principles and mindset is aggressive and relentless. But as I tell my clients that go to Fargo, aggressive, relentless, and perfect technique, right? Because when you get in, you better finish, because if not, you're going to get rolled. So, Paul, for you, you're coming off of a second state championship. You head to Fargo. Is the humbling that you get there, and going 5-2 isn't exactly being humbled. That's a great tournament, but what does that do for your mentality, sending you back to Louisiana for your junior year?
I mean, it just made a whole world of difference. I mean, my sophomore year, so you definitely I didn't say struggled, but like I didn't dominate the state like I felt like I should. Sophomore year, I bumped up 2 weight classes, but then I go to Fargo. I wrestled really well with a bunch of the top guys in the country. So I'm coming back to Louisiana, and, something to point out to all the listeners and the high school kids out there, like, you guys have a great opportunity right now with Ke-Shawn and Kendon and Ke-Shawn, and just the amount of kids already going to Fargo and junior duels and cadet duels and schoolboy duels. I think when I went to Fargo my sophomore year, we had maybe 10 kids go to Fargo in the whole state of Louisiana. It was me and one other guy from my high school, so it's fun. Like, you guys there's a short window in y'all's sporting career, whether you only wrestle in high school, that you get the chance to do this, and you have incredible coaches and the camaraderie, and just like, you guys need to take advantage of going to these off-season tournaments and getting better with the best kids in the state. Like, not a lot of people can have that opportunity, so there's no reason that we shouldn't fill the teams with the best high schools, the best kids year in, year out.
All right, we're going to take a commercial break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to look at the records and the names of the Louisiana representatives at the Fargo National Championships.
Serving Mandeville and the greater New Orleans area for over 20 years, Dr. Lesishere offers a wide array of dental services. From full mouth rehab and orthodontic aligners to simple fillings and porcelain crowns, she'll treat your entire family for all of their dental needs. With a first-class dental office offering the latest in digital technology, she's also a leading provider of Botox, D-Sport, and fillers across the metro area. And for all you wrestlers out there, she can provide you with a custom mouth guard. Visit the website or call to make an appointment today.
And welcome back to Louisiana Wrestling Now. And what we're going to do now is, man, we're going to use our graphics department, and our top flight producer, Justin Thomas, is going to bring up, first of all, our freestyle 16U competitors at Fargo. We had Braden Semino go 5-2. Isaac Aurelian, 4-2. JP Weber, 3-2. Landon Modica, 0-2. And Isaac JP bounced back in Greco with a great record, with great records also. And Ke-Shawn, you spoke about both of these guys in our interview. What about Braden? Talk about him a little bit, because he was pretty close to placing. What does he have to do to get over the hump?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's just where you fall in the bracket, and sometimes it's making those little adjustments. So I think a big thing for Braden moving forward is that he's finally focusing on wrestling year round, whereas in the past he wasn't necessarily wrestling all year round. So that's going to catch up with him quickly. Doing freestyle and Greco throughout the summer is going to help him make big gains, and he's already really close. He's really good wrestler, obviously, really strong. He's learning that, especially when he went to junior duels this year, he's starting to learn that you can't just be strong, right? You got to have good technique behind the strength. He's got good technique now, but it's going to keep getting better, and he learned that lesson.
Yeah, well, you brought up the word strong a couple of times. JP Weber, I talked about him all year in our broadcast. Pound for pound, probably the strongest kid in the state. He's got a couple of state powerlifting records. Is JP getting to the point where he's really using his strength to his advantage?
Yeah, that was one thing that I really noticed about JP, and what made him successful at the tournament is his ability to hold good position. There's nothing that can be understated about holding good position. Everything that we work on in wrestling is how to break a guy's stance before you shoot and score. And if you can't break JP's stance, then how do you ever shoot on him, you know? So that was definitely something that helped him out a lot in his matches, and he did a really good job in.
Yeah, and the other guy that had a great tournament going 8-4 combined, Isaac Aurelian, and you said it, he gets better every time he goes out there. And with Hope only entering his sophomore year this year, if you're a coach around the state, you got to be really worried about Isaac Aurelian. What do you see? What are his best traits?
His pace is definitely his best trait. He just goes out there and just attacks and attacks and attacks. When you're in 16U, it's only 2-minute periods, so it's a 4-minute match. And he was wearing kids out. Like, these kids were gasping coming off the mat after 4 minutes. It is incredible. So that's definitely one of his strong points. And it's funny because what Kendon and I were talking with him about that's actually going to make him better is sometimes shoot a little bit less, right? He hand fights people so hard and gets them on the ropes, and sometimes he takes a shot at the wrong moment and kind of lets the kid catch their breath. We're like, man, once you get them in that whirlwind, keep them there for a little bit. Make them fight to get back to their stance and wear them out longer before you go and take that attack. So we were really impressed by him, and that kid's a sponge. He's going to be good.
Yeah, he's going to be good. So let's go to our junior wrestlers now. Man, this is our biggest class. And, you know, Paul, like you and I just talked about, you went to Fargo with probably 10 guys, and you probably, counting your 5 wins, Y'all might have won what, 1 or 2 more matches?
Yeah.
I mean, right?
I don't remember.
Look at the wins. Look at the wins we put up here.
This is impressive.
3-2, 4-2, 2-2, 3-2. Man, it's got to make you feel great as just a fan of Louisiana wrestling. So let's look at some of these guys. Who really impressed you, Ke-Shawn, in this group?
I mean, there's so many. Gunnar Guidry fought really hard. I know that his 2-2 and 0-2 doesn't necessarily jump out on paper, but he had some really tough kids. I think he wrestled the number 4 kid in the country at his weight first match and had to bounce back after that. So that was a tough one. Jackson Peak did really well, just really learning how to use his physical attributes to his advantage. I was really proud of Richie Clementi too. He's only wrestled Greco at Fargo in the past, and before junior duels, we kind of had a talk about what it's going to take for him to be successful when he goes off to college and everything. So he was willing to buy in and make that jump and compete in freestyle this year, and really just being willing to put it on the line. You got to be willing to risk something to gain. So he made that jump. There's just so many kids did so many things well. We were really proud.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you saw that, Richie Clementi, because if there was a knock against him, it was, hey, he goes to these national tournaments, he cuts a bunch of weight, he wrestles Greco, whatever. And I watched all his matches too. He wrestled very well. He wrestled at a weight class where he could go back to back and wrestle freestyle and Greco. Mm-hmm. And I think Richie sees now the fact that, hey, he's going Division I, Cal Baptist. He needs to go out there and test himself against the best kids. So another great performance there. Let's look at the girls from Louisiana. And hey, this is called growing pains, right? Growing pains. I had a girl from Ohio. She's wrestling in college next year. She's a 2-time champ. She finished 8th, so she All-American. Name's Reagan Briggs. She could have easily won it. She was beating the girl who won it, got caught. But it's a very competitive girls division. One thing that you see coming up with the girls in Louisiana, just one simple thing, Ke-Shawn, that they really need to improve on quickly.
It kind of just goes back to holding position, right? Being able to hold a good stance. They're learning wrestling moves, learning how to wrestle, but having the discipline to hold a stance. And a lot of that comes with time. So a big difference that you see, my home state, Missouri, girls wrestling is really, really good. I think they won junior duels and got second in Greco junior duels maybe. So Missouri wrestling for girls is really successful right now. But wrestling for girls in Missouri has been sanctioned for years now, right? It's really new in Louisiana, just got passed. So I think we're going to see big gains quickly.
Yeah, and let's congratulate Chevy Coleman for posting a 3-2 record. What allows Chevy to be successful?
She's just able to string attacks together. When you watch Chevy wrestle, she's not just going one attack and stopping. And kind of like I said, she's been wrestling for a decent amount of time now. She's wrestled for years. She's not quite as new as some of the girls that were out there, but that doesn't mean that you can't go chase that experience. All these girls are, again, willing to go put it on the line and chase that experience, and that's going to help them out a lot in the long run.
That's awesome. All right, so let's switch. Let's go from Fargo, and let's talk about the big show. The Olympics are going on now. I don't know about you guys. I cried today watching the U.S. women beat Australia in rugby. As a former rugby player, I can't tell you how impressed I was with women's rugby. The passing, the speed, just everything. And so looking forward to the wrestling part. But what I want to stress to our viewers out there, I work with so many wrestling kids, and I ask them, do you watch other sports? No, I wrestle. And I'm like, well, maybe you should turn on the TV and watch something else, because from watching other sports, as I did as a kid growing up, you're able to visualize greatness in so many different areas. So I'm going to ask you two guys. You were both extraordinary wrestlers in high school. Paul, you first. Were you a sports fan growing up? How much did watching successful athletes and teams help shape your career?
Man, I would say I'm still a sports fan, and it doesn't matter what sport it is. When you're at the highest level like that, I nerd out over just the fact that, like, whenever I'm around somebody who's playing a sport, like, I know Kristen Nuss, right? So I nerd out about her and just like what they're visualizing on the court, whether it's the sand or swimming or tennis or whatever it may be, like that the average person doesn't know. And so, I think that is just like the craziest thing. If you're a true sports fanatic and you want to be great, there's so much more that goes into the sport besides, oh, I practiced hard.
Yeah.
I lifted a lot of weight.
Yeah, I can't get over. Let's talk about Kristen because she is absolutely phenomenal.
She's incredible.
And she's going to become a household name over the next week. The Mount Carmel Academy graduate, all state in both
everything,
volleyball and basketball, MVP. And then her senior year, I believe they said
soccer.
Yeah, they said come be a striker, and she led them, I believe, to a state
champion. Yeah,
yeah.
She didn't even practice.
5'6", which was almost as tall as me, 5'7". But she spikes like you wouldn't believe.
Her IQ,
she spikes. If I'm a wrestler, I'm watching her, and I want to know everything that she's doing to get to that level, right? That's how I'm going to become great.
I agree. I mean, she's anticipating spikes at the highest level of her sport. It's honestly crazy to watch.
Yeah. Look,
so yes, I love watching sports.
And it's beach volleyball. Who doesn't want to watch beach volleyball, right? Ke-Shawn, for you, man. Were you a sports guy growing up?
Yeah. I always watched a lot of sports growing up. Basketball, tennis, soccer, all that stuff. One of my favorite things about sports is some of the athletes at the highest level, listening to them talk about their childhood and their preparation. That's one of my favorite things. You listen to like Tiger Woods talks about his dad had him hitting like 500 balls in the garage every day since he was like 6 years old. And it's like, yeah, no wonder you're really good, So I think that kind of translates kind of what we're talking about what makes an athlete successful. I mean, there was just an interview in the last year or so, Christian McCaffrey said their dad wouldn't let them wear jeans on game day because he didn't want to make their legs tired, which it's a little bit ridiculous sometimes, but it just goes like you have to do, if you really want to be successful and you really want to compete at the highest level, you have to do everything right all the time.
Yeah. And look, the bottom line is this. I feel that from watching sports, you're able to dream and visualize about success. And if you're not visualizing your success in this sport, it's not going to happen. If you don't see yourself getting your hand raised or hitting a takedown in the last seconds to win a match, if you don't see it over and over and over, you're not going to get there. So let's talk about the biggest stage. We're going to focus on the freestyle team, the U.S. men's. I want to pick every one of them to win, but let's talk about 57 kilograms Spencer Lee. How do you like Spencer Lee, Ke-Shawn?
I love Spencer Lee. Spencer Lee's my favorite wrestler of all time. I think that Spencer Lee is the best wrestler I've ever watched wrestle, and it's a shame that he wasn't healthy throughout college because when he's healthy and he wrestles, I mean, we see what he can do when he's not healthy. I mean, when I watch that guy wrestle, some of the stuff that he does is just incredible. So I'm hoping that he's healthy enough. And if he's anywhere close to healthy enough, he's my pick to win it.
Is he the best U.S. freestyle wrestler on top that you've seen?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I agree with you on that one. Paul, 57 kilograms.
Man, I think a sleeper pick that you got to talk about is RBY. I mean, that guy is wrestled at the highest level. He can – I mean, I don't want to say I'm cheering for him over the USA by any means, but he can compete with those guys. There's no reason why he can't win a gold as well.
Well, he's going to have that key behind him, the Penn State wrestling program, and everything that he took away from that team and those championships. 65 kilograms. Zane's a world champ, correct?
Yep.
Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. Yeah, he won the world champ at a non-Olympic weight. He's come down 65 kilograms. I think a year ago, everybody was thinking Yanni would be here. Yanni didn't make it. Lee went in for a while. Lee gets beat in the trials. Rutherford's there. What are Rutherford's chances, Ke-Shawn?
I don't know if I can see Zane winning a gold medal. I think he could medal. I think it's going to be really tough. When you talk about the difference between non-Olympic and Olympic weights, we're talking about like 15 pounds. Right. So when we say he dropped a weight, like he dropped a lot it's a big difference. We're talking 10 pounds, 15 pounds, somewhere in that range. So it's tough when you wrestle. The Olympics, they pretty much do the bulk of the tournament all in one day. You have to weigh in at a weight that you're not used to competing at. Obviously, he did it at the trials, but he was able to sit to the semis. So it'll be interesting to see how he's able to hold up throughout the tournament.
All right, so I'm gonna start my complaining now. Okay, it aggravates me that we get to the Olympics and we don't have wrestlebacks, like true wrestlebacks. You got to the Olympics. Your guys should not have to go forward. But there were studies done by NBC Sports, ABC, whatever. The average viewer would rather see gymnastics because they believe they're prettier and better shape, and it appeals to men, women, children, everything. Well, wrestling appeals to us, but that does drive me nuts that we could have, at least, if we're going to cut it down to 6 weight classes, we could have a tournament with true wrestlebacks, because there are going to be some weight classes where, like at 74 kilograms, Kyle Date could get dropped in against the Russian or the Belarusian who pinned him at the last Olympics. So, Paul, what do you think about Kyle's chances at 74 kilograms?
I mean, I think you kind of summed it up, and it really goes for all the weight classes. It's the draw, the draw is everything. But, I mean, I think Dake's got a great chance. I mean, you have Zamolov. I know I'm pronouncing that wrong, but he's also very good.
And who's the other guy? Megaligonov?
Yeah, it's like I don't know how to pronounce it.
I don't know how to pronounce them either.
Yeah,
but we know who you're talking about. He's also
on Flow. They're pretty good at pronouncing them. I just don't agree with a lot of things they say.
It's just
that
the
takes
draw.
us to 86. We know Aaron Brooks unseats pound for pound the best wrestler in the world, David Taylor. Aaron Brooks, though, kind of slides by. Paul, you just had Zahid in town, okay? And look, I'm with Zahid. I didn't see him grab headgear. I did not see a headgear pull. And you know what? Yeah. If I'm a referee, I definitely didn't see a headgear pull in that situation. I'm letting them fight it out.
Right.
Ke-Shawn, what are Aaron Brooks' chances at 86?
It's kind of a double-edged sword with that being his first big stage. So a lot of those guys don't know what it's going to feel like to wrestle him, but at the same time, he doesn't have a good idea of what it feels like to wrestle that level of international competition either. So I think he's going to surprise some people and maybe pull off some big wins, but I don't know if I see him going all the way. I think he maybe loses right before he gets to a medal.
Yeah. 97 kilograms, Kyle Schneider in the rematch from the World Championships, where Kyle blatantly said, I had no idea who this guy was. He wasn't strong. He had a good grip, and he countered me. Man, what does Kyle do? And I'm going to ask you, Ke-Shawn, being an fellow Ohio State guy. Kyle's got to have a different game plan in the rematch, which could take place in the semifinals. Do you agree with that? And what should Kyle do differently?
Yeah, I mean, I think his game plan probably is going to be to wear him out in the hand fight more first. He came out kind of attacking a little bit more than he sometimes does against high-level competition. I mean, I guess they're all high-level, but whenever he wrestles when you see him wrestle like a Sajalayev, he doesn't shoot a lot in the first minute and a half, right? But I believe in that match, he came out kind of firing right away, didn't really know what to expect. So I'm sure we'll probably see a lot more hand fighting. We'll see that guy's hands touch the mat a lot of times in the first period. As Kyle tries to wear him out, he's going to snap him down a bunch. And then I think maybe open it up in the second period.
Yeah, and look, Kyle Schneider, Paul Klein called me freshman year in Arizona. He goes, Coach, I'm in the wrestling room. Kyle Schneider's the biggest human I've ever seen.
Oh, my gosh, he was massive. He warms up with his shirt off, and I'm trying to cut weight to 133. I'm like, this dude is enormous.
That's great, man. Look, there's a guy who wants to wrestle till he's 45 years old. You gotta love him. I mean, and the nickname Captain America, I think that's perfect for Kyle Schneider. Just a great representation of a wrestler here in the United States. I can't ask Ke-Shawn about this next guy because He's the enemy. He's Michigan. And I know I see an Ohio State singlet. They don't say anything about the Michigan guys. But, Paul, what do you think about Mason Parris? He just went to a qualifying tournament, won it. He's got some big wins against some guys in the bracket. What do you think about Mason? And, man, what would you do to see Gabe Stevenson in this bracket?
I would say Mason's got a great shot. I mean, the top 3-4 guys, again, it's very draw-based, but I would say all those guys are right in the mix. You got the Iranian, the guy from Turkey, Mason, to see Gable Stevenson back in the bracket would be great. I know he's grinding it out with Brother Martin guy, Will Clapp, over at the Buffalo Bills, though.
That's great. We're going to have Will on tonight, man. I talked to Will about that. I said, we talk about Gabe Stevenson, and he said he's got a long way to go in football. He goes, but he did hit a couple of offensive linemen with some nice throws. So he's at least using his wrestling at Buffalo Bill preseason practice. And I know they're at training camp right now. So we're going to do this. We're going to give wrestlers out there some good advice. Set your alarms, go to Peacock, find out when wrestling's on at the Olympics, and soak it in. Get a pad and a pen out and write down 5 things I learned today from watching this. 5 things that I didn't know before I got to this. And what can I do to get better after watching this? What can I go in the practice room? I think the number one thing you're going to find is the hand fighting. It's going to be the positioning. But, man, you're going to learn so much about, like Ke-Shawn said earlier, when you do take that shot, it has to be perfect. So we're going to wrap this segment up with a quick little, right off the top of your head, and this is just for me to vent. If you could change one freestyle rule, what would you change? Ke-Shawn.
I would change that they have to put somebody on the passivity clock after halfway through the period if there's no score. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous because then you screw people up because they wrestle different. I mean, you can't really help but to think about it differently when it's 1-0 instead of 0-0. So, and they come out and say that usually the guy they think is better or the guy that's more aggressive, they'll put him on the clock first. That way, if it happens in the second period, the other guy gets put on the clock and they'll win. They'll win by last score. But a lot of times that can change the outcome of the match and it messes people up. So,
all right. So this is why we got to have Ke-Shawn on the show more, because that makes 100% total sense. But I didn't think about that. But I agree. I hate that shot clock. But the way you just described the way they go about it makes me hate it even more. You're right. Paul, who would you get rid of? Paul's like singlets. I'd get rid of singlets. No. What would you get rid of, Paul?
I don't have like a specific one, but I guess my top one would be that overtime. They need an overtime instead of criteria or ties. Yeah, you got mine too. I mean, okay, yeah, I think that would be my biggest one. They should do an overtime.
Yeah, and I had a good friend of mine. He used to come down and do camps here in Louisiana. Brad Varing wrestled for Nebraska, was an All-American. Brad qualified for the Olympics, and Brad lost on a ball grab. Don't take that the wrong way, studio audience. It's not a real ball grab. There was a time where we settled matches where you reached in a bag and grabbed the ball, and if it was red or green, the other person got the pick, and you were put in a clinch. And if you broke the clinch, it was over. Brad Varing went 0-1 at his Olympics. He lost to a very good wrestler who happened to lose his next match on a ball grab. So there's been a lot of freestyle rules that have aggravated me. Ke-Shawn, yours makes total sense. Paul and I agree on that overtime rule because I believe once you get to that point in the match, you're probably a minute from somebody getting a push out or a score. So why not go the extra minute? So if the Federation's watching, which I'm sure they are, please take that into consideration. And we'll be back after this commercial break.
Serving Mandeville and the greater New Orleans area for over 20 years, Dr. Lessishare offers a wide array of dental services. From full mouth rehab and orthodontic aligners to simple fillings and porcelain crowns, she'll treat your entire family for all of their dental needs. With a first-class dental office offering the latest in digital technology, she's also a leading provider of Botox, D-Sport, and fillers across the metro area. And for all you wrestlers out there, she can provide you with a custom mouth guard. Visit the website or call to make an appointment today.
And welcome back to Louisiana Wrestling Now. It's been a pleasure having you guys on. And for this last segment, man, let's hear from two guys who were top level. It's the end of the summer. You know, whether you're coming off of Fargo or you're coming off of Deep South Duels, which are taking place this weekend. What did you guys do at this point of the year? Did you kind of take a break? Did you cut things back and recharge? Or just continue to grind it out? How did you prep for the season? Ke-Shawn?
Yeah, so for me, after Fargo was my time to just really take a break and get away from wrestling. So Fargo ends, and I would take a month, maybe a month and a half off, depending on how my body felt. And then once I started up again for preseason, before the high school season would get going, I was pretty much grinding from then until Fargo again. So that was really my only time to take a break, and I definitely made the most of it and didn't do anything wrestling related for about a month.
All right. And look, Paul, I coached you, the social chairman of New Orleans, the most popular guy in the city. I mean, I'm pretty sure I know what you did, but what did you do?
I took a little break.
Doctor. You mean
No.
a New Orleans kid took a break?
Yeah, no, I took a break, but at the same time, you know, we lifted, we conditioned. I didn't just like full on, you know, lay around the couch, eat canes and ice cream every weekend, you know. But I would still, you know, work on one or two things. But as far as like hard practices, live wrestling, I don't think we really did much of that. So it was definitely good to unwind a little bit, reset.
Yeah, and so I'm going to give a little coaching advice here, and something I've become a firm believer in, and I want you guys to comment on this. Give me your thoughts, okay? But what I teach my mindset kids, and what I'm going to tell all you high school wrestlers out there, it's okay to take a break right now. But why not get out a pen and paper and write out a plan? First of all, write out your goals. What are my goals for the season? When am I coming back? What are my workouts going to be like? If I'm going to manage my weight, when do I start? What is my weight management plan? Come on. If you're one of 5% of kids in the country who actually have a plan going into off-season, preseason, regular season, I think that puts you way above the curve. What do you think, Ke-Shawn?
Yeah, I agree. I think that you should definitely make a plan, especially when you're in that time that you're taking off. You have nothing really else to do, nothing to focus on. You might as well, take a minute to think about, what do I want my season to look like? What do I want my next year to look like? I'm big on making a plan for season to season, for your career, even for week to week, like practice plan. So I'm really big on planning things out, and I think that when you go in with a goal or an idea of what you plan to accomplish, that it can cut out a lot of the wasted time and wasted energy.
Yeah, and Paul, for you, man, you know, wrestling for me at Brother Martin, we definitely had a plan. You know, I as a coach, I knew you guys needed this break at the end of the summer. Mentally, when did you kick it back into gear? Was it that first football game? Was it homecoming? Seriously, I think the kids out there, it's great to hear it from you. When did you kick it back into that wrestling mentality?
I would say we started conditioning, and that's really when, because, you know, you'd be a little bit more out of shape than usual. And so that's when I really would be like, okay, now it's time. I'm not actually dieting, but I'm watching what I'm eating. I'm still eating as much as I need to, but maybe it's like the first thing I would do in my diet is I would cut out all preservatives. So I'm trying to eat all fresh stuff, whether it's fruit, cooking grilled chicken, you know, fish, vegetables. That would be my first step into, and it would start whenever we would start the off season or the preseason conditioning. And then now we're itching to get on the mats. And once we're on the mats, it's, I'm pretty locked in. I'm ready to roll.
Yeah. So look, guys, great advice for you guys. Come up with a plan. Ke-Shawn hit it on the head. I know all of my mindset clients, I have them write out a plan every Sunday and then go back the following Sunday and evaluate that plan. Did I reach my goals? And if I didn't, what do I need to do the next week? It's simple. The most successful people in the world, not only in wrestling, in business, they're focusing on a plan and they're working toward a goal each and every week. All right, great information, guys. And, that's going to do it for part one of this two-part episode. I want to thank Paul Klein and Ke-Shawn Hayes. These are two guys that did it at the very highest level, winning 7 out of 8 state championships in their high school careers. So you wrestlers out there, follow advice from those guys. You guys also stay tuned. Next week, we'll be back with part 2 of this episode on why football players should really consider wrestling. Thank you. Everyone have a good evening.